Well, hello. Oh, there's my kitty. What kitty? So this is my first live on this channel, and I'm actually really excited to be doing a live here. Lives tend to work best for me, actually, because, sorry, let me get this out of the way. Lives tend to work best for me because it's really hard for me to schedule and follow a schedule. I have, this channel that I started because I thought, well, I'm on the spectrum. I can talk about spectrum stuff. I'm late diagnosed. I was diagnosed at age 45. And it didn't make life easier. Awareness is helpful, but there's still so many times that something will happen, or I'll see something online, for example, or a video about autism, and I don't seek these out anymore because I find them disturbing to me, actually. Because when something ends up being like a spectrum issue, and I didn't know it was a spectrum issue, it's kind of like a kick in the balls. Another one, like, right, this isn't a. Before I was diagnosed, I basically just thought I was having a normal human experience for the most part. And after I was diagnosed, I realized that I definitely am not having a normal human experience. And the more and more I realize, like, how much easier it seems just to live and cover the basics, for most people, it's tough. I mean, it's a struggle. And I don't I was making videos about being on the spectrum and everything. I was watching a lot of content about being on the spectrum, and I quit doing that because it was very clinically triggering for me. There have been words that have been sort of hijacked by society in their clinical terms. Buddy, stop. Buddy, buddy, stop. And it's those terms are meltdown, trigger and meltdown. So those are clinical terms that have always been attributed to autism. And sorry, it just got really loud here all of a sudden. I don't know if you can hear that. I hope you can't. So a trigger is going to be sort of specific to an individual. It's going to be something that they specifically sort of have an issue with the sound of. Like, we all know that nails on a chalkboard is really a bummer. Okay. That's pretty universal. But imagine if there were other things that didn't bother other people, or that didn't bother the majority of people, but it bothered you. Like the sound of people eating or cutting, or the sound. There was a restaurant in a town that I used to live in. I had the hardest. There were a couple of restaurants, and they had different auditory issues. One of them had concrete floors and metal chairs and tables of 6. And so if they were sitting down or leaving, everybody pulls out those metal chairs on the concrete floor. Oh my God. It was so loud. And it was all open concept. And so it was like a diner. And so the guys they would have these big bins of dishes, and they would put the dishes away like really loud. I had a really hard time there. That's, I think, when I first started experimenting with noise canceling headphones. which I can't wear because I can feel the pressure of the vibration and it's painful. So I remember being in the restaurant and looking around when this was happening because I was so shocked at the noise, and I'm looking at everybody. No one else was reacting at all. It's almost like no one else heard it but me. And that is, I don't really know. I mean, that's one of the things about being on the spectrum is that you can have these really big feelings, but you don't really know what they are or how to explain them. The other day I was driving around. I just needed a change of scenery. It's I don't find this city that I live in right now very beautiful or interesting. It's very bland. So I was looking for some beauty, and I found this really interesting neighborhood that is like this old neighborhood, I guess. Maybe let's just say from the 1980s. It was kind of what it looked like, but the trees were really big and it was really lots of green lawns, and it was a large area of town. And just the feeling of being in that kind of neighborhood environment with lots of big trees, like, you'd see in like the Midwest or something where I grew up, or even like Salt Lake City where I went to high school. It made me really emotional, and I was feeling very much, and I didn't know what the feeling was. Um, it was like the feeling of wanting to be with people I know. I'm like, what is that? Is that loneliness? Because I really don't identify as someone who gets lonely or misses people. Maybe I do and I just don't know it. But I thought about it for the past couple of days, and I think it's the feeling of nostalgia. That feeling. And to me, that's a very uncomfortable feeling. It's almost like sick. I don't like it. I don't like the feeling of nostalgia. It's very emotional for me. And it used to be considered a mental illness, actually, and I get it because it's painful. So I'm not really sure, and I'm on my period. And if you don't know about me, because I'm so sorry, I'm like emotional. So I was diagnosed at 45. I'm almost 54 years old. I also suffered more before I was diagnosed with what's called premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And that is a very challenging disorder that kind of looks like bipolar, but it is cyclical with the menses, but the symptoms can change a little bit from month to month. So and then if you don't have a regular period like me, it's almost impossible to realize for what reason you might be freaking out or feel horrible, feel as bad as you do. And you might not even realize you're freaking out or feel as bad as you do until you start your period and you reset and you're normal again for a couple weeks. So, I, at 54 years old now and still, well, almost August. So it's May. In August, I'll be 54 and still having periods. Maybe the past 10 years have been perimenopause, you know? But also the situations that I've been in were harder and I was freaking out more. So anyway, making this channel, I just thought I would make a bunch of autistic content. And then I realized I just don't like talking about it because it's so emotional and there's so many other things going on and comorbidities and symptoms. And I try just not to think about it and just live my life. But what's happening now is that by some miracle, several years ago, I started a company that was able to
for a while, more than ever in my life before, because I have support needs that end up being financial a lot of the time. And um, so I started a company, and now 6 years later, more than 6 years later now, 6.5 years later, I'm so burned out I can't even hardly work this company to make a living. And part of it is because it requires my car, and I don't want to run up the miles on my car because I don't know if I'll ever get another new car. I mean, I always kind of think that the things I have are the last things I'll ever have. Like, I had help getting my car, I had help getting things, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to do them on my own if I don't have help. And so I'm kind of like not working because I don't want to put the miles on a car that I think I might need for the rest of my life, and I'm only 54. Because I know that I can't just go out and get like a normal job like normal people. And I have been sending out my resumes because now in this world, remote work is possible. And it wasn't before. The best job I ever had was remote. And that worked out pretty good for me, although I still needed, I had some support needs in my life, but that was great. So then I started this company and I was doing okay for a while. And for so many variety of reasons, it's just not something that I can really continue. And so I'm looking and trying to do other things. I'm like, I'll do a YouTube channel. And I put together this content and made a beautiful YouTube channel for homeschoolers or parents in general, launching over Christmas. Those people don't care. People don't want content about how to enrich their children and um, help them achieve their potentials. That is such a small fraction of people. But what they want to see is like dogs licking their balls and stuff like that. So I realized this because I put up some dog content and people just ate it up. So I started making dog videos. And so I've got over 1,000 subscribers now, but it's a dog channel. Where is that going? You know? Um, and then I put up a bunch of different channels to make different content for, to see which ones I liked, which ones other people liked. But now that we're live here on the spectrum, I can just come on and blah, 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 blah. And I don't really love to talk about myself, and I hate being asked questions, so I don't like therapy. But I just am so overwhelmed today that I don't really have a choice. And I think because we're live now, finally, we've got our little 50 subscribers. Thank you so much, subscribers, that I can come on and just blab about this stuff. And maybe this is my therapy. But let me tell you, it is really, really hard. And being on the spectrum and having PMDD and I don't know, maybe ADHD, I guess they're pretty much, coexist together. And there are a lot of things about ADHD that do not fit me, but there are some that do. And I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I just would like to be able to live easily. And it's not easy. It's just not easy. So I've been sending out my resumes for remote work. I'm not getting anything. I mean, I was doing this last year too, and I got burnt out on it. I got one bite, and then it didn't result in a job offer. And I'm just so exhausted, and it's like there's certain types of jobs that I could probably do, but then I'm having to deal with people more than what I think is probably reasonable. And I'm thinking maybe it's my age. I don't know how much they can ascertain my age from my resume. Um, I just don't know. There are so many things that are out of alignment right now that it's so overwhelming. And I'm like, maybe I'm just on the wrong path and need to change my course completely. So 2 or 3 times a day, I'm like, maybe I just need to change my course completely. And I know that sounds like ADHD, right? It's just panic. It's just sheer panic. Tazo passion tea. I love this stuff. And I see some YouTube creators making music or dancing. That's what I used to do. But now it's like, can I even still do that? Would I even be taken seriously? You know, um, it, do I even want to? I'm not 20 anymore. I'm not 30, 40, whatever. I used to have all this energy and creativity and zest for life, and I just don't right now. I just don't. I don't know if I ever will if life can't get a little bit easier. And I'm so close. Like if I had a regular normal paying job, like 80 to $120,000 a year, I would be totally fine in like 2 months. I'd have everything handled and then be able to really start like investing. But it's a matter of getting that. And so I do apply, send in my resume, but then in my mind, it's like so much anxiety if I get a job because then I've got to change everything about myself to fit, like to mask. I have to mask. Oh, I'm going to start a new career at 54. I'm fine with that, really. I mean, law, you know, I could finish my psychology degree, I could get a law degree. Um, I finished the real estate classes in Florida and then moved out of Florida. So, and then realized that that's probably not a good fit for me anyway. And the real estate market is changing so much, not just the real estate market, but the real estate profession, as things do. It's like as soon as I jump on something, it changes dramatically. I've just been like really, really out of sync with this existence. Like I was just born out of sync. Like the things I'm good at, or the things that like are on the forefront at any given time, I'm too early or too late for. Back in my mid 20s, I was writing so much music. I was going crazy writing music. It was amazing, recording stuff, but there was no YouTube. And now I just don't know if I could do that again. Sit around and write music. I don't know if I have that much creativity in me anymore. I'm so fried. But if I had a bunch of money, how creative I would feel all of a sudden. And it's not like, oh, if I just had enough money to like get by and pay my bills. No, if money like wasn't an issue, oh yeah, I'd feel super creative all of a sudden and write a bunch of music and put it on YouTube, and then that would generate money. But it's a catch-22, you know. Um, and I'm just really allowing myself to spew and be cynical right now because there's nobody on. I guarantee you, if somebody popped on right now, my personality would probably uncontrollably change. This is me right now feeling the way I feel and letting it out and not masking it all, which is super unusual. This never, I just don't allow it. I don't want to sound or feel sorry for myself. I don't want to put these vibes out there or manifest anything. But it's like my entire past is living inside of my body, and it's just so full of regret that I'm so exhausted. I've made so many bad choices just because I didn't know. I was naive. I trusted the wrong person um a lot of times. And I didn't know. I didn't know I was on the spectrum, and I didn't know I had PMDD. So I came to the table with a lot of issues that I wasn't aware of, and I'm taking responsibility for that, even if in times that I don't know. Maybe I would look back onto a bad argument. What was my part in that? I'd love to know like where I was in my cycle. Um And I really think the thing about working and everything now is like, I just don't want to leave my house. I don't want to be around people. It's like shell shock, PTSD, complex PTSD, I guess that's a thing now. You know, the patterns of relationships. Lots of the times people repeat the patterns of the relationships they've had in their lives, right? And I definitely have too. I recognize that there are certain relationships that mimic each other based on ones that from my childhood and my family growing up. And all of that, I literally just don't want my past living in my body and in my mind. I literally just want to start fresh. I just really, really, really want to be in a different place. And I hope once this menopause is over that I will find myself in that space. But I need to happen. I need it to happen now. And I know there are a lot of women out there going through maybe something similar. I think probably the prevalence of undiagnosed autistic ADHD Gen Xer women with PMDD is probably pretty high because of everything that we went through and all the things we were exposed to and all the traumas and the environmental pollutants. And I mean, there's just no way. And a lot of women who are diagnosed with bipolar actually aren't bipolar. They're just PMDD, but it's a cycle. And so it seems bipolar to people. You need to have a good doctor to recognize the pattern and ask the right questions. The way it's diagnosed is by the pattern of destruction in your life around your cycle, destruction of relationships and career, your job, getting fired, or sorry. But I'm just kind of using this SPeCTRuM channel here to just put up whatever I want to, because I think that's sort of the point. Giving myself a space to be on the spectrum and be who I am. And that's probably going to materialize in a lot of different ways and maybe different playlists. Because I have a ton of different interests. So things that I've come in and out of over my lifetime. I have a thirst for knowledge. I really enjoyed when I was younger. I learned about things that were like in my mother's library. So law, photo analysis, just analysis in general. I'm an analyst. That's my personality type. I'm considered the logician or the analyst. I need to make sense of things. I see patterns. Find loopholes and inconsistencies, and I need to see something needs to make sense for me. And I really, really am interested in AI, and I want to learn AI, but you have to learn computer coding. And I don't know, guys, that might be a challenge for me because I've already learned Python and all of those enough to get a professional certification in cybersecurity. But I was just getting by. Like the things you're supposed to type into Python. I know that people say it's really simple and straightforward, but they don't make sense to me. Like, explain to me why this and why that. I know this is ramming. And so I start to approach like, oh, well, I'll do this thing, I'll become, I'll work in AI or I'll do cybersecurity because then I can just sit on my computer and I can be wherever I want to be and look however I want, not deal with people. But then I start like, okay, I'm going to relearn Python. I'm going to redo this whole thing. I'm like, right, I'm dyslexic. I don't understand what the fuck they're using this. I'm sorry for that language. I don't understand why. Like, can you explain why you're using dash star period? Not that that's what Python is like, but um, I guess I just need to get used to it. I had the same problem. I worked at Sizzler when I was 16. I worked the cash register sometimes, and they fired me. Okay, for who knows why, but they said that I didn't smile at the cash register. I never understood it. There's a button that you're supposed to push called plu. The fuck does plu mean? PLU. Explain to me what plu means, and then I might be able to remember why it goes in this order of buttons, but I couldn't figure it out. I was always messing it up. And of course, I was never smiling because I was stressed out. Taking an order in the line, there's a line of people here at Sizzler, and I don't know what plu means, y'all. I don't smile enough, whatever. No, I don't smile. I'm autistic. And even if I was smiling, I'm still not smiling. Like when I think I'm smiling, I'm not smiling. And people can say that diagnoses don't matter, don't label yourself, blah, 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 blah. But not having a diagnosis can be extremely dangerous. Because not feeling well and not knowing why isn't okay. That's very destabilizing. If you don't feel well, but at least you know why, you have something to go on. You have a starting point to heal or to do some kind of work. But if you if there's something wrong with you and you don't know what it is, that could end it all, right? Because then you don't know why these things are happening. You don't know that it has anything really to do with you, and that life is just like this, right? I got to a point with PMDD where it was suicidal 3 months in a row without me even realizing it. And women on with PMDD fail a few times until they realize that they need a plan because it's so impulsive. They don't have a plan. It's impulsive. They don't normally feel that way. And then all of a sudden, spontaneously, impulsively, they try to do something, but they don't have the right things to do it. They don't have a plan. They don't know what they're doing, and it fails. And after a few times of failing, they realize, okay, I'm going to be ready next time. And that's when it gets scary because you know what? They're not asking for help any longer. I called the suicide hotline, and the lady, after a couple minutes, said that she had to go. She didn't take me seriously. And I did try. Now I know that women on the with PMDD, when they're that way, they don't seem like normal people who are that way. And the questions they ask and the qualifiers don't line up. And so I thought, there should be a hotline specifically for women with PMDD because then we know. No, she doesn't have a plan, but trust me, she can figure it out. She can figure it out. It never crossed my mind or occurred to me that I might be on the spectrum. It wasn't ever a topic of conversation. Nothing. So then, 45 rolls around and you just are the way you are and you don't know why things in life go the way they go necessarily. You don't know why you can't be like everybody else. And then you realize there's a thing called Asperger's at the time. That was still a thing. And I went and I got diagnosed. I mean, so now it's just all autistic spectrum. I guess the level of autism depends on your level of support needs. I don't need someone to physically feed me, but there's plenty of times when I need an adult. It's like I do dangerous things that I don't know are dangerous. I I cleaned something with bleach in my laundry room with a spray bottle and I burned my lungs and I couldn't breathe for 2 weeks. If it was much worse, I probably would have ended up in the hospital. I was flushing cat litter down the toilet. I didn't know. I mean, I guess to some people that's obvious. It wasn't obvious to me. I mean, why? It's poop and some gravel, so I mean, just the clumps. I wasn't like dumping cat litter down the toilet. Okay, so apparently you're not allowed to do that, so I quit doing it. But why didn't I know that? You know? Um there's just I can't there's just so many ways that I'll realize like I went out yesterday. My son was at the trampoline park and I usually just sit in my car. I thought, I'm just going to go in and have something to drink and look out over the water. And that'll be so relaxing. That wasn't at all relaxing because there were other people there. And so I was just super anxious and fidgety. I can't even imagine what it would be like just to kind of be normal, you know, just to do what you got to do. That would be amazing. I mean, how do you do that? How do you just do what you got to do? It's not laziness. It's like physically forcing myself. I mean, it'll make me throw up. It sounds so stupid, but it like, ugh. I don't know if it's the anxiety of knowing that at some point the shoe is going to drop and everything's going to fall apart. Everybody, they're going to realize that I'm weird, that I don't fit in, that I can't do it, that I'm not who they thought I was. You know, I have in me an aspect of me that's incredibly competent. It's just like there's no glue that holds it all together consistently. And then just being exhausted on top of it all. It's like I'm tired. I don't really feel well. I don't know if it's a nutritional deficiency. I just don't feel good. I have been walking. I didn't walk yesterday, so I really need to do that today because I gained a bunch of weight. I haven't been this much since I was like ever maybe, I don't know. Back in the day, I got up to a size 10, but I thought maybe they changed the sizes. Um, but I'm 100 and I don't know how much I weigh. The most I've ever weighed when I weighed myself was 147 pounds. Um, and I was a size 10. So that's probably about where I'm at right now. It's horrible. I don't like it. So I've been walking and trying to lose it, which I will. It's easy for me, in theory. It's just that I don't feel like doing it. And it's so boring. Going out there and walking around is really boring to me. We're just walking around the apartments. It's not like I'm out in nature hiking and exploring. The last time I did that, I think I got my leg broken 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I just, honestly, my life has just been sort of like a mild shit show. Just a chronic, mild, underlying shit show. I'm really fucking sick of it. I don't know what I'm going to do to continue. I don't know what I'm going to do to support myself. I don't know what I'm going to do. I literally just don't know because it's so expensive. And it's just to live, right? It's so expensive to live. And the jobs I've been applying for, it just seems like maybe it's just too much responsibility. They better not be spam calls. I'm gonna be pissed. Well, I'm glad that nobody came on my first live. I'm glad I just kind of got to vent and be a jerk and be cynical and feel like scared and feel like crap and complain a little bit. I'm usually much more optimistic, I think. I don't even know if I'm really optimistic. That might just be a mask. I literally have no idea what I'm doing or how to sustain myself. I just don't know.